struggle bus this week. 598 pages in 5 days.
That is a lot of pages. I'm not fully on yet, is the problem. It's like, ah, shit, we started too soon. I'm not prepared.
We had such a good rapport, too.
Oh, people are going to find out that we don't really like each other. We just put on an act for this brand new episode of Soon to Be a Major Motion Podcast. The podcast where we read books that were turned into movies and watch movies that are based on books. I am Billy Beck.
I am Cody Beck.
Cody, how have you been since we last covered The Big Sleep?
You know, it was a rare time where we saw each other between recordings.
No.
Yeah.
Were you spying on me?
No. No, I forced you to help me with menial tasks around the apartment.
Yes. Your now wonderfully decorated apartment in which I also live.
No, you're breaking kayfabe. But yeah, I spent $100 at Michael's and bought a bunch of frames, and we hung up 4 years of posters.
Yeah. 3 years of posters.
Los Angeles is currently flooding slowly. Again?
Yeah, it rained like all weekend, and now it's raining again right now, which is honestly fine. I don't mind the rain if I don't have to go driving.
Yes, the driving is the yucky part. But yeah, other than drowning every time I step outside, you
don't like swimming across a river to get to your car?
Not particularly. I think when I went grocery shopping, I think I actually texted you. I was about 60 feet from the apartment, and I said, my feet are already wet.
Yes. For those who do not live in LA nor have ever lived in LA, oh no, it rained for a day, and they're complaining like they're dying. Guess what? We live in a desert, and the city, which was built in the desert and is mostly concrete, is not built to drain rain. Well, if at all. Most of it just kind of ends up in the LA River, which, contrary to popular belief, is not a river. It's that weird concrete shaft and grease they race in with a trickle running down through it most days. Days like today, there's actual water flow. But anyway, I digress. I know it's not that much rain in the grand scheme of things. We grew up in Pennsylvania. It's fine.
It's a lot for the desert, and the other thing is, along with the infrastructure problems,
people don't know how to fucking drive in it.
Additionally, not only do people not know how to drive, but even for people who do know how to drive, the fucking road lines on the street are not reflective, so you cannot see them, nor are our streets crowned. So, and additionally, because it goes so long without rain, anytime there is rain, it releases all of the oils and other stuff that gets trapped in the road, and so it's extra slick.
I only hydroplaned once on my way home from work.
Only once?
Only the one time. I usually skid a little bit when I'm going up the mountain, because I have to cross a fucking mountain to get to work. Mm-hmm. So yeah, anyway. that's this week's LA chat.
Yes. It feels apropos, considering The Big Sleep.
Yeah, it was all LA, and I think it rained in a scene.
It rained in a couple scenes. It was actually pretty rainy.
What's the deal with fucking Hollywood movies that take place in Los Angeles insisting on, like, the wet look? I think, is it Catch Me If You Can? I think LA scenes, like, the roads are always wet. Or...
That sounds like something they would do.
Like, it's like a thing that movies do. Like, it really doesn't rain that often here, guys.
Yeah. Especially considering our conversation about The Big Sleep again, it's a vibes thing. LA, when it rains, has a very specific vibe. It's also the only time you can film well because, the smog isn't messing up your camera.
Yeah. Oh, God. The day after a big rain here, the air smells so clean. It's fantastic. Don't drink the water.
Speaking of The Big Sleep, you had a suggestion for what we should cover this week.
Yeah, so... We did, like, a West Coast hard-boiled detective. Yeah. So I figured let's follow it up with the evolution of that genre. Let's go 20 to 30 years in the future. Let's go to the other coast. And let's do a detective story in New York. So we are covering Roderick Thorp's 1966 novel, The Detective, and the film adaptation from 1968... called The Detective, starring Frank Sinatra.
This is a rare one where we both went into it very little knowledge besides the guessing based on the tropes.
Yeah, completely blind. So before we talk about the story, let's talk about the author. Roderick Thorp Jr. Was
I will never understand the male insistence on keeping your shitty name through the generations. Is it a humiliation ritual? You can speak to that.
Yeah, I was like, you are saying this to a junior.
Mm-hmm. I know. That's why I'm like, I dated a fifth. He was a fifth with that shitty fucking name.
I knew a fourth, and the name was Pern.
I knew a fourth, and his name was Wiki.
People need to be stopped. Roderick Mayne Thorp Jr. was born in the Bronx in 1936. His father, presumably named Roderick Mayne Thorp Sr., ran a private detective agency where little Roddy worked in his 20s. In addition to car sales, insurance sales, haberdashing, and catering, Roddy wrote a novel in 1961 called Into the Forest, which sold poorly.
0 copies.
His follow-up, however, was praised as an evolution of the hard-boiled detective genre, this time following an actual cop instead of a private eye and taking a more adult look at modern policing. And that novel, of course, is The Detective, which you read.
I sure did, all 598 pages of it.
Oh, those were the pages you were referring to.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So did you mentioned to me earlier that you were looking up his first novel and you couldn't even find out what it was about?
I wanted an actual plot summary, but all I could get were the blurbs from, like, all the booksellers, and of course no one has a copy of it. It sounds like it's kind of a similar premise to this. It's a veteran from the war coming back and trying to find his place back in society, and he is a private eye. Is as far as I could figure it out.
Okay. Yeah, my primary source for Thorpe was his fucking obituary. And not even the good New York Times one, because I ain't paying for that shit. Because, like, yeah, there's not a lot of information out about him. Not nearly as much as I'm used to finding and getting.
I think only a handful of his books even have Wikipedia articles.
Yeah.
And
like,
Into the Forest is not one.
One of the novels that has a Wikipedia article is The Detective.
It is, indeed.
It's not an in-depth Wikipedia article.
No, it's not. But I wish he were less in depth while he was writing it.
What, 598 pages was a little much?
A little much. Smidge, a hair, a shade.
So in those nearly 600 pages, which I've condensed down to about a paragraph.
Yeah, that's about as much as happens.
Joe Leland is a private detective who is tasked with looking into the death of Colin McIver at the request of his widow, Norma. As Joe investigates, he learns of a political corruption involving land deals and a murder. It turns out, when Joe was a cop, he obtained the confession, conviction, and execution of a gay man named Felix Tesla for the murder of Teddy Leichman, another gay man. This murder, however, was actually committed by Colin, and the confession was that of a mentally ill man. Oops! Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bum. And
Interestingly, there's some differences on this between the book and the movie.
well, we'll get to that when I get to the paragraph on differences between the book and the movie.
I know. I'm waiting for the trailer.
Oh, you've got nothing to say? Did I miss anything?
No, not really. Most of the actual plot, that's it. That's about 200 pages worth of plot, right?
Honey, that's a paragraph worth of plot.
The problem is, he's also dealing with his wife who cheated on him, and it's been a couple years, and he's having a lot of stream of consciousness thoughts, and it's pretty clear that Thorpe is trying to relate homosexual men to promiscuous women and give them basically equivalent status in terms of their mental health, because all of the women in this novel are promiscuous and all of them cheat on their partners, and it's very comparative to the language he uses when talking about homosexual men.
Well, maybe if homosexual men were allowed to get married to their partners, they wouldn't feel the need to be so promiscuous. The 50s.
We're just fighting with old
Fighting.
in the 50s.
Sorry, I've also been reading this week. I've been reading Tal Lavin's Wild Faith, and having grown up in an evangelical culture and reading about how like people from that culture are taking over America in bad ways. I'm a little fired up about like this fucking 50s bullshit that everyone wants to return to. The 50s were bad for a lot of people.
I
Anyway,
like to live my life in such a way that if I met a man from the 50s who wasn't extremely progressive for his era, he would hate me on sight.
Yep. So unlike Thorp's first novel, The Detective was a bestseller, and film rights were promptly swooped up by none other than my close personal friend, Robert Evans. Rest in peace, King.
You gonna explain that? We're just gonna leave that there.
I think I may have mentioned it on the pod when it happened, but
I think you did, yeah.
Due to the nature of my job, I have legally come into possession of a lighter that was handed out at the 2007 Vanity Fair Oscars after party, and the specific lighter was the property of film producer Robert Evans.
Did we talk about that in The Aviator? Was that around the time you got it?
No, Aviator, I don't remember. It might have been around there. Who's to say? So before we get into the movie itself, we need to talk about the late 60s in film in general. Because last time out, when we talked about The Big Sleep, we talked about how the Hays Code censored very important aspects of it in 1945, 1946, like the homosexuality and pornography.
Which is also fascinating considering it was literally while the two stars were going through the male star was going through a divorce because he was cheating on his wife with the female star.
So the detective mirrors Big Sleep in a lot of ways, including that. We'll get to it.
It sure does.
So 20 years after The Big Sleep, where are we the code? It's struggling. At this point, the studios and distributors are finding workarounds to the code, including importing foreign films that were not under the influence of it and distributing it under subsidiaries. 'Cause basically how it worked was the MPAA was the major studios, and they all agreed not to release a film theatrically unless it had the code of approval or the seal of approval from the code. Sorry, Tobias is being a menace. So what they would do here is like, oh, Universal Pictures isn't releasing this, but this company we own through two other companies is.
Oh, interesting.
As we get towards the 60s, Billy Wilder's 1959 film, Some Like It Hot, was released without the code seal of approval and was still financially and critically successful, which was the first
major blow,
gut punch to the code. As the power of the Hays office continued to weaken, in 1964, The Pawnbroker, which is a film about the Holocaust, was given special dispensation to be released with the seal of approval after appeals to the MPAA, even though the film featured bare breasts.
Oh, because they were dead women's?
I don't think so.
I feel like I remember hearing about this, and it was like because it was non-sexual, maybe?
Maybe.
But also, I do feel like World War II had a lot to do with it because the weakening of the code in general, because you can't...
No, this was way after. This was the 60s, though.
I know, but I'm thinking, like, traumatized men coming home, and it's a way to get some of that... We know artist therapy. Getting some of that out, whether that's creatively or seeing it, I could see that being a reason why people started to get dissatisfied with the sanitized version of movies.
Yeah. Well, in the final years of the code, studios became more brazen in defying it, with 1966's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf being the first to receive the SMA label, suggested for mature audiences, and Blow Up being the first directly produced by an MPAA member, released without the seal of approval. By November of 1968, the code was replaced with the new rating system we know now, G, M, R, and X.
We're missing a couple in there.
What, you don't go to see M-rated movies? M eventually became PG. They added a PG-13 and X became NC-17. So the only ratings that remain from the late 60s are G and R.
It's really interesting because I feel like as an adult, I don't even pay attention to ratings anymore.
I paid so much attention when I was a kid.
Yeah. Like, the only time I'm paying attention to a rating is when I go to see a PG-13, and I'm like, alright, where are they dropping their one fuck?
What movie got 2? Rent got 2.
Because they're in the lyrics?
Because they're lyrics of a song, and it's one song, and the second one is a punchline. Or like a callback to the first one, because it's like jarring when it happens. Fucking weird. The other piece of historical context that we need to talk about is where the gay community was at in the 60s.
Yep. There's a pretty famous event that happens at the end of the 60s.
But where were we before the Stonewall riots? Stonewall was 1969. This film comes out in 1968. So Kinsey, known now for the Kinsey scale, published Sexual Behavior in the Human Male in 1948. And since that, what was called the homophile movement began. And that spawned numerous organizations which fought for the rights of the LGBTQ community. Television and radio began implementing gay characters and themes, storylines, and there were also publications circulated for the community under Supreme Court protection. I can't remember the name of the magazine, but it went all the way to the Supreme Court about obscenity laws, basically. Alongside the mid-60s sexual revolution, gay and lesbian pulp was being written, and the physique movement emerged with the Mr. America contest, which is a plotline in the novel and film.
It is. It's very minor, but it's there.
It's there. While these steps towards acceptance were occurring, pushback, of course, came from political and other forces. The Lavender Scare forced anyone feared to be homosexual out of U.S. government, and very few public places welcomed open members of the queer community.
There's a relatively famous anecdote during Eisenhower's presidency where he said something to the effect of, make sure we get these, I want all the lesbians out of the army. And quietly, the people that he was, the person he was saying this to was like, well, you will have no one. And he very quietly was like, oh, okay, and dropped it.
Yep. You don't win championships without lesbians.
That's just science. There's also, of course, the term Friends of Dorothy.
Yep.
Which, another very funny thing that happened in the misguided attempt to get rid of homosexuals in the military, both male and female, was they were looking for a literal Dorothy that all of these people were friends with.
Only the most intelligent in our nation's intelligence agencies. Now, while gay bars did exist at the time, many were not owned or operated by members of the community, and police would frequently raid them to harass their clientele. Stonewall, I believe, the Stonewall Inn, was, I believe, owned by the mafia. And normally, the police would let the mafia know they were coming, and then they would raid on, like, a weekday afternoon. The Stonewall riot was because they raided unannounced on a Friday night.
Yeah, the thing is, the mafia may be a problem, or a problematic entity, but gay money spends as good as anybody else's money.
Yeah, when you're skirting under the law already, who cares? Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah,
and it's taken, another 50 years for the fucking capitalist class to start recognizing who gives a shit. Money's money. Except for the fucking credit card companies. Yeah. They still don't want porn money, bastards.
Another one of my favorite anecdotes is from the Stonewall riots. There was a straight man, I can't remember his name, but he was an author, and he happened to be drinking at the bar next door, and he just saw people throwing bricks at cops and went, great, and joined in.
This looks fun! So, I think 3 years prior to Stonewall was the Compton's Cafeteria riot in San Francisco. And it's one of the earliest examples of a violent response to police harassment by queer and trans people, as a trans woman threw hot coffee at a cop while resisting arrest. Good for her.
Now, was she resisting arrest, or was he beating her up and she threw hot coffee at him?
Probably the latter. In late 1967, a screenwriter named Abby Mann told the New York Times that, quote, "It's easier to be accepted in our society as a murderer than as a homosexual."
Oh, hey, that's something that Thorp stole and put in his book.
So back to the movie based on that book. Before he could produce the film, my dear sweet departed friend Robert Evans was hired to run Paramount Pictures. So Aaron Rosenberg, who produced Mutiny on the Bounty, produced it. Gordon Douglas, who was best known for the Our Gang shorts, The Little Rascals.
Ah, okay.
He directed it, and, oh, would you look at that? Abby Mann, who won his Oscar for Judgment at Nuremberg, wrote the screenplay.
Oh, that explains a whole lot.
Doesn't it?
Yep.
Frank Sinatra was cast to play Leland, and his then-wife Mia Farrow was supposed to play Norma. Unfortunately for her, future episode of the pod, Rosemary's Baby, overran its shooting schedule, so logically, Sinatra had divorce papers served to her on set.
That's kind of shitty.
That's a really fucking shitty thing to do. And Jacqueline Bisset, who we talked about on our Murder on the Orient Express episode, she was in the 74.
Yeah.
She was cast instead. Jack Klugman, Horace McMahon, Lloyd Bachner, and Robert Duvall were also cast in the film. Cody, you've waited long enough. Let's watch a trailer.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
No, you're not. You're going to tense your muscles and get out the notebook. Male, Caucasian, lying nude on floor. Left side of skull crushed. Cuts on face and chest. Fingers shredded. Index and thumb of right hand missing. Nestor, you're a miserable son of a bitch.
Roderick Thorp's #1 bestseller, a literary guild selection. Now, an adult powerhouse on the screen. You're Joe Leland, detective, prowling a city sick with violence. Full of junkies, prostitutes, and perverts.
Don't hurt your shins. All right, baby. Come on. Come on.
You're not gonna tell my parents, are you?
Did you know him?
No,
Still using the junk, huh?
they're gonna bust me.
She's a whore, she's a pusher, she's an addict, and she's 19 years old. This town's crawling with kids the same age, all going the same route. Part of the great society.
The detective gives full play to Sinatra's fabulous talents in what has to be one of the year's most dynamic roles.
What's that?
Agitators.
They do not like living in garbage cans. Joe, that's none of our business. That's right, it's none of our business. Somebody doesn't do something about those garbage cans, you're gonna see the goddamnedest explosion. You're gonna tear this nation right down the middle.
Co-starring Lee Remick as Karen, who needed Joe desperately.
I don't want to be this way with you. I want this to be different.
And Jacqueline Bisset as Norma, who lifts the lid on a big, sick scandal.
There's some sort of conspiracy. I don't know what it is, but there is.
I'll have you busted.
Have me busted. If you have me busted, you'll have to bust half the people in the department for being on the take.
He wasn't nice, was he? Now, come on, Tommy, am I wrong? Was he nice?
He was a bitch!
A bitch. Face it, Felix, face it. Say it. You'll feel better for it. You can't walk around the rest of your life with a thing like that on your head.
Who?
You cut him with a knife, didn't you? And then you threw his fingers and a knife up the Queensboro Bridge, didn't you? You did it, Felix. You killed him. You crushed his skull, didn't you?
Oh!
Didn't you? You hit him.
I hit him.
Louder!
Oh.
Say it louder!
I killed him. I killed him.
You know what sex was like for me? I'd walk down a street or go to a bar or anything. Meet somebody, anybody, somebody I never knew before, and have an affair with them. It was the only way I could do it. You're the only one ever made me feel like a woman.
So the film rearranges the basic plot of the novel without really changing many details.
Yeah.
The Leichman murder is solved before the McIver death is even introduced to the audience, and the flashback sequences mainly relate to the history of Leland's relationship with his wife, instead of the Leichman case being told in flashback as in the novel. Am I right in that, or did I assume that?
No, you're correct.
Okay. The biggest change is with Leland's career. In the novel, he's a private detective remembering his time on the force. In the film, he remains a police officer until the very end, when he turns in his badge after publicly revealing the truth of McIver's business dealings and his internalized homophobic murder.
Yes. So there's also one other change involving his background. His father is a cop.
No, that's in the film as well.
But his father is his boss.
Oh.
When he's on the Leichman case.
Oh, yeah, that's not in the film at all. I don't think.
Yeah, that changes the dynamic a smidge.
Yeah, because that dude had a different name.
Yeah. It's a little hat on a hat, but so much of this book is hat on a hat. It's broken up into two parts. The first part is the introduction of Nora McIver telling us that her husband was murdered and the start of that investigation. And for some reason, Joe Leland is thinking, and he keeps thinking back to the Teddy Leichman murder, because there's also a massive manhunt going on for a missing child, who he immediately knows she's already dead, and they're just trying to close it quietly.
Mm.
And so that case is kind of in the background the whole time, and he keeps getting asked by reporters, hey, are you working on this? And so it's bringing him back to the Leichman case, and because around the same time, he was also dealing with the infidelity of his wife and the fallout of that in their marriage. The first part, which is about 300 pages, is about 75 pages of exposition, and then the flashback to the Leichman case up to the death of Felix Tesla, and the rest of that section is all about his wife meeting, courting, marrying, going to the war, because he's a World War II flying ace veteran, and then coming back and finding out that his wife cheated on him. That's all part one.
Jesus.
So then you get to part two, and it's still a little bit more fallout from his wife cheating on him, and more investigations in which he tries to fuck both of the ex-wives of the dead guy. Not successfully, because
He had 2 ex-wives?
Yeah. Well, sorry, he had one ex-wife and his current wife. His widow.
Okay, Norma's the widow.
Norma's the widow, yes. And he slowly uncovers everything. But yeah, like I said, the plot is about 200 pages, and the other 400 pages are all foreshadowing and fluff.
So, there's 2 main themes I want to talk about, and how the 2 handle them differently.
Okay.
The first is the depiction of policing and Leland's role in it. So basically, how is the novel speaking on policing compared to how the film does?
So, as much as Mr. Thorp is not afraid to mince words and put out as much text as possible, he also likes to leave a lot of things unsaid until later. So the implication when Leland turns in his badge at the end and quietly leaves the police force at the end of the Leichman case, it is very strongly implied that he doesn't like the way that was handled, and he doesn't feel satisfied with the answer, the case, even though they have gotten a confession. The novel is not kind to police, which is genuinely shocking for a novel from the 60s written by a white dude. There's a paragraph very early on where Leland is thinking about how all of the cops are corrupt in some way or another, because if you see one of your fellows being corrupt, what's to stop you? Because then you just feel dumb for not thinking of it first, or, hey, everybody else is doing it, why can't I do it? That scene in the diner in the movie where he's like, hey, I know some people that would pay you to drop this whole Colin MacIver case. That's essentially an internal monologue that he has with himself.
Yeah.
Early in the novel. And then later, there's a line that is also in the movie, and it is specifically when they're interrogating the person that they think raped and murdered this little girl. The cop says, oh, I had him stripped because I saw that it leaves them more vulnerable. I saw it from the Nazi war films.
Yeah, that was in the film as well.
From the concentration camps.
Yeah, like, there's a bit early in the film where, like, he references that police are considered fascist.
Yeah. And then he has a whole thing where he talks to the media, and he has his own views of what the police are and how they're supposed to be. And to an extent, he's also kind of covering his father's ass at this point. But he's basically like, yeah, the police, they follow all procedures and everything is great, and we take care of our prisoners and blah, blah, blah. And then later he has a meeting with the psychiatrist, and it's like a party. And this lady basically rips into him and was like, do you know how stupid you look when you're saying that stuff about the police? We all know how people are treated by the police. You look at best naive, and at worst like you're trying to cover your own ass. And she's painted as being the one that's in the wrong, but it makes him think. And the novel is not kind to police, but it also kind of is a little sympathetic to Joe specifically, because he was trying to be a good cop. And he realized he could do what he wanted to do better outside of the force. But he still has his sympathies with the boys in blue, because he also knows what it's like.
Yeah, for a film that came out in 1968, I was shocked by the honest and brutal depiction of policing. If it weren't so, like, era-specifically homophobic, I'd assume the movie came out in, like, the 80s. Leland enters the police as a family business. He holds the act of policing up on a pedestal. He truly believes that police are a societal good, and he is serving justice and doing right by his community. In doing so, even when he's called a fascist by his soon-to-be wife. I can only assume that this mirrored the viewpoints of the film's audience in 1968 while they were watching this movie. So by the end of the movie, when he has witnessed corruption from every member of the force he interacts with, like you said, and he begins to recognize it in himself in the way that he coerced a false confession from Felix Tesla. Like, he knew, he even says at the time, like, that dude's psychotic. Like, he needs to see a doctor, not a jail cell. In this process, the audience even witnesses the few bad apples in the bunch spoiling the rest, including, the film's blue-eyed, incorruptible hero.
The book is set up in such a way that there's, like, a mirror or a foil for every event. So the Leichmann murder is compared with the Schaftel murder. The little girl's last name is Schaftel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because Leland is watching from the outside on the second one, but he sees the corruption more clearly because of that. And he recognizes this is a man who is in the same position. In this case, this man probably did it. But he also recognizes later when he finally he listens to the taped confession from Colin MacIver, he realizes there were things that they didn't follow up on that were shoddy police work. Because he points out, like, even at the time in the flashback for the Leichmann murder, he points out, why are there no butts in the ashtrays but a lot of ash? Why are there 2 glasses? Why is the murder weapon all the way out here instead of in the bedroom where the body is? Why is the body mutilated the way it is? And he points out, like, once he sees all the pieces, he realizes, like, there's no such thing as a perfect murder. But this guy basically got away with one because the police wanted to see the gay guy as the criminal.
Yep. And it goes back to what the screenwriter said in 1967. It's more socially acceptable to be a murderer than a homosexual.
Yeah.
So they fried the slur, as they repeatedly say in the film, and I assume the novel.
Actually, no.
No?
There's more slurs for Jewish people and African American people.
Really?
Yeah,
because like a lot of that in the film is just happening in the background.
There's no F slurs, but he does use a lot of the colloquials like fairy or pansy or stuff like that. But yeah, I was waiting for it. I was braced for it. And granted, again, 600 pages. I may have missed one. I feel like that word is unprintable in the 60s.
Well, they printed it on plenty of copies of the script for the characters, for the actors. Because that slur is all over the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Which also we dovetailed nicely into my next theme, which I wanted to talk about homosexuality, the closet, and the stigma, and how that's portrayed.
So, something important that I'm sorry, I missed this earlier. Norma MacIver is pregnant.
The fuck?
She's pregnant in the novel, about 6 months pregnant. So Colin knew that his wife was pregnant when he killed himself, because she would have been about 3 months along. So it would have been about the time where she told him. And that's something that I feel like is really important because he was being successful in his marriage, and yet he was still going out and seeking.
Yeah. I also, could read into that a fear of passing it on to a son.
That is what the psychiatrist says, is basically he didn't want to fail his son, and he was convinced he was having a boy, and it terrified him, and so because it terrified him, he leaned into hating himself more.
God, I wouldn't know what it's like to have parents terrified that their child's gay.
What? Surely not. Only straight people only have straight children.
Then where do the gabies come from, Cody?
The gabies, obviously.
Where do the gabies come from?
But they reproduce by budding, like sponges.
Okay, so I had a read watching the movie that I'm curious how much of this is in the book. And my theory is Leland is bisexual. Hear me out. So he does join in with the rest of the force using the F slur in regards to Felix Tesla, but he's not the first to use it, and his use of it may be further evidence of my previous point about him being corrupted by the police. Mm-hmm. But as we watch Leland investigate the Leichmann case, he takes strides to treat the gay community with respect, even beating up a fellow cop for mistreating them during the interrogation. Not the interrogation, when they mess with the snuggle party.
The shakedown.
The fully clothed consensual cuddle in the back of a truck.
The orgy. The fully closed swimming pool orgy.
Exactly. The confession that he pulls from Tesla is done using kindness instead of force as well. It's not at all legal. Like, this was like 2 years after Miranda, and there are no lawyers in the room. You know people would notice that.
But he's not a person. It's fine.
The thing is, Leland he doesn't use violence or threats like everyone else is to get him to talk. He holds his hand, and he treats him with respect and empathy and kindness. And then he asks leading questions that draw forward the false confession. And finally, towards the end of the film, he has a conversation with Dr. Roberts. And after Norma leaves, he says to Roberts, "Oh, you a bachelor?" And Roberts replies, "Yes, I hear you are as well. Semi, at least." And on the surface, it's, oh, Roberts is not married. Leland is, estranged from his wife, which Roberts knows because his wife is one of his patients. But the term bachelor has been used, especially around that time, to refer to gay men without calling them gay men. A certified bachelor.
Also, the way that Roberts is styled is very reminiscent of Cary Grant, and it was an open secret that Cary was not necessarily straight.
Yeah, your first words upon seeing him is that Cary Grant? Oh no, he just looks like him. But in that scene when he says, "Oh, you a bachelor?" Yes, and you are semi at least, because yes, he's married to a woman and enjoys the relations. And then in the final scene when we learn about the murder that MacIver committed, where he was exploring his bisexuality, albeit in a horrible way, there's a moment there where, right before he lashes out with violence, Leichman says, "Oh, I could tell as soon as you walked in. I can just tell." And the idea that Roberts, being a gay man, can tell that he's at least bisexual, I think that's there. I think that's, intended.
I don't think that's in the novel. But knowing that Abby Mann was involved with the screenwriting, that feels like a layer that they absolutely could have added for the movie. I don't think it hurts the interpretation at all, but I also think it's one of those things that it's subtle enough that if you pick it up, you pick it up, but if you miss it, you gloss over it.
Yeah, and I think viewing that film through that lens, really elevates Frank Sinatra's performance.
Yeah.
Because he really is, the clean spot on a dirty floor in this movie. He is the shining light in a world of darkness. And A, watching him be corrupted by that darkness, so to speak. And B, also him not being a shining light in his own viewpoint and having this secret that he's also struggling with and dealing with. And like you said before with treating the women promiscuous. Was this on recording or before when you were saying he treats the promiscuous women like gay men?
That was on the recording, yeah.
Yeah.
Because another thing is that a significant portion of the fluff is Thorp having Leland ponder on sex and sexuality and what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman in terms of the sexual relationship. Mm-hmm. And one of the first inklings that he has that something is quote unquote wrong with Colin MacIver is that Norma tells a story about the first night they went on a date and he just wanted to be held. And immediately red flags go off in Leland's head and he's like, wait, why? Why does he want to experience that? And so that's where he starts realizing, but he's trying not to think about it because he realizes how bad a light it puts him and the police in for the Leichman case. Because that means they killed an innocent man.
Yeah. And
that's kind of, the book actually ends before you see any ramifications, because it ends with him on the phone with Karen, his wife, his estranged wife, basically being like, hey, shit's about to hit the fan, and I gotta do this, but I just want you to know that this is gonna suck for all of us. And the reason he's so committed to doing it right and telling the truth is because of how he fucked it up the first time.
Yeah.
And going back to the sex thing, everything is about sex except sex, which is about power.
Yes.
I don't know where that quote came from, but I know that's a very common quote. And that's kind of the dynamic that is explored throughout all of the sexual thoughts in this book. Because it's basically Joe Leland only wants to sleep with women that have power over him, whatever that power is. With his wife, it's because he's fascinated by her. He says he needs her. With Norma, it's because he's confused and weak, and he realizes, like, this could be my fresh start. Like, I could just say the case is over and just slide into this cushy spot with her and live off of her $250,000. With the first ex-wife, Betty Kaminsky, it's like, he basically just realizes that he's really horny, more or less. And she has the power in the situation because she has the information that he wants.
And sometimes you just gotta get your dick wet.
Sometimes. But yeah, and it's a lot of his sexual liaisons are frustrated. Like, the 2 or 3 times he has sex with his wife in the novel that it's described, it's like, she doesn't want to the first time they have sex, and then he basically talks her into it. And then later, there's the time where they actually have sex after they're estranged, and it's, like, weird and sad, and she orgasms, but he doesn't. And then there's, like, another weird flashback to where he aborts the sex because he realizes, because she smells weird, that she had sex with someone else. So this whole... And then all of the... When it's talking on the flip side about all of the homosexual activity, immediately all of the sex that is had between 2 men is described as dirty and gross and futile or violent. Like, Felix Tesla talks about how Leichman was mean to him and made him beg and made him bark and all this kind of, like, weird deviant shit. Even the other, there's more to the story, and, like, he goes to see an ex-girlfriend. Leland goes to see an ex-girlfriend of Teddy Leichman, and she talks about how he asked weird things of her.
Butt stuff.
And it's just kind of like...
Pegging. I don't know if he was the top or bottom. They don't get into it.
He was a top. Because...
I guess with 600 pages to fill, you're going to learn that information.
He was a top because we find out that Colin was always the bottom. Because Colin wanted to be a woman. Let's not explore that any further.
Whew, I didn't even think it, like, they just make it clear, like, he's a bisexual and he's exploring bisexuality, if that's even real. They didn't even hint at transness in the film.
It's not trans, it's that he wants to be taken care of in the bedroom, basically. Which, obviously, that means you're a woman.
Oh, so he's a pillow princess.
Yes.
Or pillow prince.
Yeah. So it's just, sex is always really fraught. Even when he's just having stream of consciousness thoughts about it. Because there's so much, like, wrapped up in sex and what it means. Like, the thesis of the book is kind of like, sex is not something you do, it's what you are. And that's kind of why so many people have so many problems with it, and why it's also a reflection of your state of mind and your, like, mental health, how you interact with or the way you act around sex. Yeah. So there's a lot of clearly Roderick Thorp had a lot of thoughts about sex.
Yeah. And so few of them got into the movie.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's for
bad?
Yeah.
For the worse?
Yeah, I don't think that's to the detriment of the movie. I think the movie is a more succinct and better version of the book.
So, would you recommend the book?
No. The writing is not bad, but you have to be prepared for unclear references and not clear, like, it's not clear when you're going into a flashback unless you know what he's talking about beforehand, and it's not clear when he switches from one flashback to another, except for, like, when references are made to specific time. It's, like I said, it's very stream of consciousness, it's very James Joyce, at least he uses punctuation, but it's just, I don't want to say it's pretentious, because it's still pretty down to earth, but it's very dense. It didn't need to be 600 pages. It wasn't bad, but it's not something I'm ever gonna read again. It's not something I'd want on my bookshelf. It
takes up too much space, for one.
Yeah. Honestly, the only time I got excited to read it was in literally the last 2 chapters, which is about the last 75 pages. Because that's where the plot with MacIver actually starts to pick up.
Oh my god.
Like, The Big Sleep was much better paced than this, and that still wasn't very well paced. The whole plot of the book is like 5 nights.
Jeez.
What about you? Do you recommend the movie?
Well, while the use of homophobic language and era-specific racism and homophobia make it difficult to watch, there's a lot of good in this movie. The performances are mostly excellent. Felix Tesla's a little over the top, but like Frank Sinatra is really subtle in what he's doing, and he just fucking glows. And the writing is really good. Like, going from The Big Sleep to this, it's like crazy how it's jarring how gritty and like brutal the depiction of the police becomes. And so much of that element of this like really rings true today. Like, the police are still this corrupt and still this violent and still this willing to shirk laws. Like, I didn't realize that he was a private detective throughout the McIver case in the novel. Because in the film, he breaks into a dude's office. And the whole time during that scene, I'm like, none of this is admissible in court. You don't have a warrant, sir. But it makes sense that in the novel, he would have been a private detective, and, you know.
It's still illegal.
Still illegal, but he's not a fucking cop doing it. But it's just, like, little things like that. But I think the ending of it, when he turns in his badge, he just drops a fucking bomb on the department. He's like, we fried the wrong man, and all of these people are corrupt. And he's like, here's my badge. Deuces. Fuck this shit, I'm out.
I feel like a lot of the, I'm gonna use this word incorrectly, but a lot of the classical depictions of the mob, wonder how many of those are actually drawn from police.
Well, I'd ask my dear sweet friend, departed Robert Evans, but...
Because I'm just thinking, like, all the things that you stereotypically think of with the mob, like intimidation tactics and, like, ganging up on people and beating up minorities, etc., those are all stereotypically associated with the mob or the mafia in movies. But, I mean, who would we have had experience actually doing that in the real world? The fucking cops.
I do know, I think on the set of Godfather, they had actual mobsters.
And I mean,
like, former and I think some current, like...
I mean, from previously reading the Irishman, the alleged explanation for the Jimmy Hoffa murder, we know that that's how they also work.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we also have that experience in the police.
Well, I've said in the past, the only difference between the police and a gang is that the funding for the police comes from us.
Oh, that makes me sad.
Go watch I'm a Virgo. Specifically the last episode. You know the part. No, that's all I had to say about the oh shit, Cody, my bad. I forgot a segment. I didn't talk about the legacy.
No, we have not talked about the legacy.
So the popularity of the novel and the subsequent film led Thorp to write a sequel called Nothing Lasts Forever, which was published in 1979.
Which is a bold-ass fucking title when you're capitalizing on your own legacy, but go ahead.
Anyway, I mean, he's 13 years older, 13 years wiser. 20th Century Fox optioned the novel with plans to release a film in the late 80s. Since it was a sequel to the detective, Fox was contractually obligated to contact Frank Sinatra and offer him to reprise his role as Joe Leland in the sequel. Being 70 years old, Frank Sinatra turned it down. Wasn't the best idea to do an action movie at 70.
Harrison Ford scoffs.
70 now is different from 70 then.
Is it?
Significantly. After Arnold Schwarzenegger also turned down the role to do Twins. The role was offered to Bruce Willis, who utilized an 11-week pregnancy break from moonlighting to star in 1988's Die Hard.
I can't believe you fucking tricked me into reading the novel that became Die Hard.
No, I tricked you into reading the novel that predates the novel that became Die Hard. But since our next episode is our first episode of December, which is the month of Christmas, and as we all know and universally agree, Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
I can't say anything because you'll just edit it out.
How about you read that sequel, and then I watch Die Hard.
I think you just want to watch Die Hard.
And then we talk about it on the pod next time.
You know, before I agree to this, let me look up the page count on Nothing Lasts Forever.
Oh, if it's 4 digits, I'm gonna laugh so fucking hard.
God, I hope 13 years taught him to be an editor.
After 13 years, he could afford an editor?
188, baby!
Oh my god.
But also, please look at this photo of Roderick Thorp.
Yeah, I think that's the one that was on his obituary.
Oh my god.
What a man. What a fucking man. I love how you're like, I'm gonna look up the page count and then grab the copy you already have.
You're breaking
off
kayfabe
of the
again.
table.
Stop it.
I will break kayfabe if I want to. But before I break kayfabe, if you'd like to follow us on social medias, the link tree in the description below will link you to our personal and show accounts. We've also got our Gmail account there if you want to shoot us an email, send us some suggestions, complaints, voice memos to share your piece on The Detective.
Don't
if you have
read it,
strong
please.
opinions on the film. We also have our Ko-Fi account down there if you want to throw a couple bucks our way, help support the podcast by helping with hosting fees. Shit ain't freeze. You can do that there. But until next time when we do Die Hard, I was Mr. Billy Beck.
I am Miss Cody Beck.
And, Die Hard. I'm so excited to hear what the novel is like.
I have no fucking idea how this man is gonna write action scenes.
From what